Ladies and gentlemen, hit subscribe to this channel right now. What have I been telling you for the past 6-7 months? I have done a great many videos on the Supreme Court going to bat for Trump, especially when it comes to January of a couple years ago. Terrible day, should never have happened, but he did not foment a rebellion. He did not try to overthrow the government. If anyone thinks this, that person is likely a morally superior, highly educated liberal Democrat making very absurd leaps of logic because Trump defeated them in 2016. And he was a very good president. They can't stand that either. We had record low poverty, and we had record highs in household median income with Trump. Doha Agreement, Abraham Accords, first president to step foot in North Korea. And with mashed potato brains, we have interest rates through the roof, an endless military conflict in Europe. We can go on forever. Trump is defeating mashed potato by a point and a half or 1.1 points after having been indicted 4 times. So, of course, never Trump Republicans and Democrats are going to try desperately to get him off the ballot. It ain't going to happen. The 14th Amendment states that, yes, if you did try to foment a rebellion or organize a rebellion, that you cannot run for president. Trump did nothing of the sort. He did nothing of the sort. So the Supreme Court declines to hear a 14th Amendment challenge to disqualify Trump. And John Castro, who is running for the Republican presidential nomination, has filed various lawsuits. Let's see here. The Supreme Court on Monday declined to hear a bid to disqualify former President Donald Trump from running for office under the 14th Amendment. John Castro, who is running for the Republican presidential nomination, has filed various lawsuits seeking to challenge Trump's eligibility under the amendment's provision targeting those involved in rebellions. In brief, in a brief unsigned order issued Monday, the justices declined to take up one of his cases after Castro lost in a lower court. The Supreme Court so basically the Supreme Court isn't even looking at it. They're not going to give it the time of day because it's an absurd leap of logic. It was a terrible day. He used the words peaceful in the speech. He said, peacefully, go walk peacefully there. He did not say, try to rebel against the U.S. government. By the way, we'll get to the Federal Bureau of Investigation exonerating Trump 2 years ago as well. But hit subscribe to this channel, ladies and gentlemen. If you want to give a super thanks or support my work, my Patreon is below. The super thanks is below. Last night we had a really great live stream. It was awesome. And we'll have a live stream again very soon. Here I want to show you exclusive Federal Bureau of Investigation finds scant evidence U.S. That day was coordinated. Okay. So the Federal Bureau of Investigation found basically no evidence. They used scant evidence. This is a semantic game that says, oh, well, there's a tiny bit, but not a lot. There was really nothing. It was not coordinated by Trump. There was no coordination at all. It was a terrible day where obviously people got out of control. Unfortunately for Trump and the country, we had that throughout the summer. Okay, every single day, $1 to $2 billion in property damage, and people were defending the chaos, saying, well, it's just property. It's just property. Yes, I'm not equating the moral basis for demonstrations. I support why people demonstrated that summer peacefully. I don't support the $1 to $2 billion in property damage, the 19 lives lost according to Wikipedia all throughout that summer. And so if you ignore what happened that summer and then you focus on that one day, and by the way, there were demonstrations that got well out of hand, chaos, mayhem, criminal activity, the same type of thing that took place in January of that year, in May of that year, but it was left-leaning demonstrators right outside the White House that could have been exactly the same type of situation or description. So you had a mini rebellion every single day, especially in front of government buildings, not just in DC, but in other places of the country. Now, it's interesting that Kinzinger and Cheney and Democrats and MSNBC and CNN and the Washington Post don't care about that. It's all filtered through, ladies and gentlemen, it's all filtered through the wonderful, morally superior liberal sensibilities of these highly educated Democrats. They're highly educated, morally superior, yet seem to be okay with $1 to $2 billion. Not that's insured property damage, billions more in uninsured. And you had people losing their lives all throughout that summer. You had the most chaotic scenes. Again, I agree with why people demonstrated peacefully, not the chaos and mayhem. And what happened was, whether it was Trump or people who went there that day in January, they said, well, we're going to demonstrate also. Now, for the people who thought that criminal activity or violence or chaos or mayhem was a good idea because it happened all throughout that summer, that was obviously a terrible, terrible thing that I condemn. I definitely condemn what took place that day in January. It wasn't Trump's fault, however. It was a terrible moment that Democrats are now trying to, as always, equate to the most devastating days and moments in American history. Again, that entire summer was a replay of that one day, unfortunately. But if you look, ladies and gentlemen, the Federal Bureau of Investigation has found scant evidence. This is, by the way, a 2021 article. The Federal Bureau of Investigation has found scant evidence that January in the U.S., was the result of an organized plot to overturn results, according to. So if you look, and this is the lack of logic that most morally superior, highly educated liberal Democrats have. You already had the Federal Bureau of Investigation and every other intel agency look at what took place in January. The same thing happened when they accused Trump of being an operative of the Kremlin. We have tens of billions of dollars in taxpayer money that goes to intel agencies. You would think, ladies and gentlemen, that we would have some intelligence on a sitting president trying to overthrow the country. Okay? We had zero intelligence. We had zero evidence that Trump was a Kremlin operative. The Steele dossier was, of course, purchased by Clinton, who I think will be the 24 nominee for the Democratic Party. I don't see mashed potato brains going 8 years, or running again, I should say, because I just think Clinton. That's a whole other story. I just think Clinton will do everything possible to run again, and it's going to be a replay of 2016. But anyway, you would think that you would have evidence that this was some kind of coordinated attempt at overthrowing the government. There was no evidence at all. The January committee left out and edited a video and transcripts of him speaking. The indictments against him by the special counsel edit and don't use his words in the correct context. And so all you have is information that misinforms. The people who complain about information that misinforms actually misinform the public the most. Trump did not at all. There was not a moment in his presidency where he tried to foment anyone to commit any crimes. What happened was Trump did not believe that he lost fair and square. That is okay. Democrats still think they won 2016. Okay, they accused him of being an operative of the Kremlin and working for Russia. None of these things happened. It is okay to disagree with the Washington Post or the New York Times or MSNBC or CNN or the Democratic Party. Yes, there's no evidence that mashed potato brains lost. The question, though, is how did such a thing take place? That's a whole other can of worms. Anyway, hit subscribe to this channel right now. Like I said, Trump is backed by the Supreme Court, and any conviction will be overturned for the same reason that they did not even look at this, the 14th Amendment case. Hit subscribe. I'll be back today.